All right, Ronnie. I'm sure this is a question you've been asked before. How would you make a raw vegan haggis?
Well, I would say that I've never been asked that question before, but after the first time I came to the Woodstock Fruit Festival in 2012, I wanted to start helping the movement a little bit and bringing people together. So I did start to build little groups, and we did what's called a Burns night. So
Yeah, Robbie Burns.
right, yeah. So there is there was a raw vegan cafe in the time in a city called Edinburgh near me, and I was in touch with them and I said, how about we do a Burns night? So I created this idea, and their chef worked on the idea of doing a raw vegan haggis, and it was very good. But the what I think they used was, because haggis has like oats in it, but also has like sheep's stomach and all this stuff. So they did actually approximate the flavour pretty well, because it's certain spices, and then for the kind of texture of it, it was like some dehydrated kind of vegetables. But I think they may have used some buckwheat or something like that.
Well, I was gonna suggest sprouted buckwheat instead of the oats.
And I think they might have used sweet potato, but like raw sweet potato in some way. So I think they used a few things like that. So I'd have to try and find the information.
Traditional haggis, it's like a bunch of things stuffed inside an animal's stomach or something.
Like the offal, the parts that aren't like the prized parts to eat, I suppose.
So what would you be stuffing with the raw vegan?
Oh, like what would you actually make the container?
Yeah.
Well, the way that haggis is served is it would be cooked in the thing, but when it gets served, it gets cut open, and then the inside really gets is what you eat. You don't really, so you can serve it as similar to what the inside is. And sometimes you'll buy it in a can or something, and it's just the inside part of it. So it's not like you eat it and you eat the skin part of it or the intestine or whatever it is that gets used. So it'd be hard to replicate that. There's maybe like some kind of, rice paper isn't raw, but I was thinking maybe something like that, but I don't know. But as with a lot of things, and this is something that Doug Graham pointed out at food demos, he would say, a lot of the things we have with flavours and trying to approximate flavours is the spices. It's the herbs and the spices that we're trying to replicate. And if you can replicate that, you can get something that's close to like fried chicken, because you're using the same herbs.
Right.
Or sausage, because you're using the same herbs.
Right.
Like if you know the herb mixture, and then you can try and get the texture right, then you can get something quite close a lot of the times.
Yeah, I made a raw, what do they call it, cordon bleu, raw vegan cordon bleu chicken breast thing. And what I did was I sprouted the chickpeas and I made like a hummus, and I added a lot of like coconut to it.
Yeah.
And I dehydrated that for a long time, and I like adding certain like spices and stuff like you said. It actually, like the coconut, when it gets dehydrated, makes it like flaky and crunchy. So
Yeah. Have you ever followed Enzyme 33 on Instagram?
I've never seen it. Yeah.
So he's a guy that does a lot of gourmet stuff, and he keeps it low fat, using a lot of sprouted chickpeas and things like that. And it sounds quite similar to what you're talking about. And but at the end of the day, I like these things occasionally, but I always kind of go back to simple, and not because of the health aspect, or it's literally I just enjoy it.
Yeah.
I do enjoy eating simple, and
it probably feels better generally too, right? Like digestion.
And even the taste. I more and more I enjoy the textures and the tastes of juicy raw food rather than anything that's dried and that. And I found I was making like these raw burgers for a while, and it's Doug Graham's recipe. It's a good recipe. It's courgettes, zucchini, and carrots grated, and then you put them in a bowl, and then you put in avocado, like mashed up, and then you mix it all up, and it forms a kind of a kind of a batter, or
Yeah.
whatever the word is, and you can form that into burgers.
It's almost
burgers,
like
put it in a dehydrator.
it's almost like a latke, like kind of.
Yeah, it's probably, that's maybe a better
Yeah.
word. He calls it burgers. So anyway, you put it in the dehydrator for a while. Now, I was doing that for a while. I like it, but I got really constipated. Like actually trying because
When I eat a lot of avocado
Yeah.
and dehydrated,
and then
that's
you dry it,
yeah.
and it goes into your. And if you have like 10 burgers or whatever, because that we
You
eat
just-
abundantly
yeah,
in
they're
this
so-
diet, like, and then you just backed up. You're like, oh man, it's too much. But,
Another question I had was like, I've been like road tripping for the past month. As in, I've been on a road trip. That's not like some drug reference. You know, I've been doing raw till 4. What would you recommend for like a really satisfying dinner for someone who's traveling and wants to be fully raw? Because I eat fruit all day, right? And I want my salad at night, but I'm like living out of my car. I'm not gonna like, I guess I could put it together a salad in my car, but like.
yeah, well, the first thing is to always accept, to me, like, travel is always going to be difficult, and it's never going to be perfect to try and figure out travel. You can't plan things as well in advance. You maybe can't carry stuff in your car, or you don't have the space. So on the road, standards can drop a little bit, and like, so I'll be happy to have pasteurized juice or something that I don't usually have. But whenever I've been around the US or driving or anything, I love Walmart. Like, I know some people hate Walmart. I understand that.
They actually have good produce.
Well, people,
really
but people say
produce.
to me, you can't be a raw vegan and eat in Walmart, and you can't, the fruit's not good enough. I think it's great. And I went to Indiana one time, and this guy made a conscious effort to take me to all the best places to buy produce, and I was like, this is great, but I'm really happy with the Walmart. And in Walmart, you can, obviously, it's easy to get all the salad greens you want, but you can get, they have like avocado in a tub, but it's like just pure avocado mash or paste.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can get in on this.
Yeah, but
I came over. Sorry. Can I talk?
Yeah, we're on a video,
I
so say
came
something entertaining.
What's up? Well, I was gonna say something entertaining, so I came over here to ask you. I want to see Grant's honey. When you have a pic, send me a photo. Show me a photo because I'm curious.
might not have a photo, but I'll try.
Okay. Also, Grant, when you watch this, congratulations. I'm so happy.
Are you
for
still thinking about that?
What?
Are you still thinking about that?
I'm still thinking about that because I'm super happy for him. He's, Anyway.
Some
Bye.
little bit of raw vegan gossip going on there.
Yeah. So, what I did if I was looking for a simple salad, it was obviously you need some kind of a bowl, but your greens. Usually, I do iceberg lettuce, and you can get shredded iceberg lettuce pretty easily.
Yeah.
Some places you can actually get a pretty decent salsa. There's some places you can get an unsalted, either pineapple, mango, or just a normal like tomato salsa. There's a few places in New York. I remember getting.
What do they call? They call that pico de
gallo.
gallo.
Sorry, yeah, that's probably the right word for it. You can sometimes get a good one of those. I prefer unsalted. So I would find that, and then there is a brand that is like, and what I'm saying using the pack because it makes it easier in terms of if you're in your car and stuff, so you don't have a chopping board. But these are things that you can throw in.
A big bowl.
A bowl
Yeah,
you can throw in. I think it's called just avocado or something, and it is literally just mashed avocado in a tub. There's no salt added. You can throw that in. You can throw in the pico de gallo stuff if you found it. Throw in some cherry tomatoes or plum tomatoes. And I would keep it simple like that. I don't go much beyond that personally.
And in that case, it's really about volume more than anything else.
Well, for your own personal enjoyment, yeah. I mean, sometimes if you're not feeling satisfied, maybe you do need more fruit, even if you don't want more fruit, things like that. There's a whole conversation around that. But I'm just hotel room things and those simplistic situations, and to me, it's always Another thing I like is sweet corn, like grate sweet corn into it. The sweet corn, lime juice, avocado with greens, like that's an easy one. Any kind of combination of tomatoes, avocado, greens, maybe green onions. I think you call them chives.
Or scallions.
So it has to be, you're not going to have because you're on the road, you're probably not going to have a dressing or it'll be difficult. So you create the dressing from the different things you put in there and maybe adding some lemon juice and mixing it all up. But I love the Ronnie salad. Like the Ronnie salad is the simplest salad. It's greens and tomatoes, which is very easy on the road or anywhere. And honestly, I prefer that to the best dressing ever, and greens or a big complex thing.
Did it take you a while to get there though, till like that was satisfying and like really?
I don't know.
Did it for you?
Yeah, it's a weird one for me. That like, I honestly I just when I started to have salads, I started thinking, what is it that I like in this? And I started to really identify. The tomatoes a big part. I would always be adding tomatoes, so I realised that was a big thing. And then I just started to eat tomatoes on their own, and then I would eat them with greens, and I just started to love that combination on its own. But it's also the fact that I would probably have, if I could get away with like a high-fat diet, I'd probably have a nut dressing and all that.
Yeah.
It's delicious. It is delicious. But I can't get away with it. I don't feel that good on it.
I can't do that. Yeah.
Like I'll put on weight like that pretty quickly. So so in terms of keeping it simple, keeping it easy, that
it was
kind of really simple.
interesting what you were saying. Like when you notice like one of the tastes or textures that was satisfying to you was the tomato. I often, when I started eating a lot more salads, when I really got heavily into raw food, I noticed a combination that I really was like nostalgic for me was the iceberg or the romaine with the tomato together, and a little bit of mustard. And I realized when all those years I was eating like McDonald's burgers or fast food burgers and stuff, a lot of what I really liked was that combination. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was really it, and it was very reminiscent.
There's a flavour in Big Macs. There's a sauce, they call it secret sauce. And it's not really anything to do with animal products.
Right.
And the flavour of a Big Mac or whatever, there's the secret sauce in that is really a combination of vegetables and herbs and fruits and some kind of fatty thing. It doesn't have to be milk, it could be nuts or it could be whatever. So we could recreate most of those flavours. We could recreate any kind of like kebab sauce. We could recreate the sauces used for chicken. We could recreate all of the junk food, just like sauces and flavours, and replicate them raw. And that's good. But I always think that like gradually for everyone, I think they'll eventually want to simplify and just enjoy and get more and more into the simple flavours of fresh fruits and vegetables. I also I do love tomatoes, but I also end up eating too much of them all the time, and it's almost like
I think you can eat too many tomatoes.
Well, I have a bit of a binge thing, and so I can end up eating a lot. And eating them all the time, and it just gets too much. And I think it's sometimes like if maybe I'm not getting enough social interaction, or I'm not getting enough exercise, or I'm not sleeping well enough, or something's unbalanced, and I just start to go towards food a bit more. On a technical sense, I think I don't think you can eat too many tomatoes to the point where you're really harming yourself. But some people do have more sensitivity towards certain things like tomatoes, and they would maybe start to pick up a little bit of, and it's more the thing that things are meant to be in and out of season. So in nature, you can't just eat tomatoes all day long throughout the year. They come into season and then they disappear. Same with avocados, the same with nuts, the same with anything. Like things come in and out of season. you're not really meant to eat them all the time.
The New York University study or whatever that talks about like what they speculate for like caused primate brain growth was following the fruit that was in season, like migrating with the seasons.
It's an insane level of intelligence. This is what people don't understand. Like a carnivore gets up, smells around, follows. You can put a carnivore down anywhere. And it follows its nose to find where animals are. You've got the kind of leaf eaters and the grass eaters, like grass and leaves are everywhere. It's like total no-brainer, easy to find that stuff. And with fruit, you need to understand the time of the year, the ripeness of it, how to find it in a forest, the location of it physically.
Whether it's poisonous or not.
Like so many things. And we don't realize that, and so people go, we've got a weak sense of smell. We've got an appropriate sense of smell for the fact that we don't really need to use a sense of smell that much, because we can see colour from a distance so pinpoint that other animals can't even compare with that.
Right.
And we can look at planets and stars that are light years away and see the different colours. So the idea that we're weak, we're only weak if we think that we're a hunter-gatherer, and we're not, we're a frugivore. We're a specialist frugivore. We're probably the most specialist frugivore, and that's why we developed the biggest brain, because we maximised fruit, we monopolised fruit. And the stuff that Tony Wright says about when we go away from fruit, we start to, our brain probably starts to go in the opposite direction. But the frugivorous primates tend to be the smarter ones. Fruit is what made us have colour vision. It's so clear and obvious, but we're in a denial as a society about this. Huge denial. And the thing about fruit is it's kind of like having a healthy relationship. Some people will leave healthy relationships because it's not exciting and fun, and they go into like a crazy relationship, which is all up and down, and that's what happens. It's like there's an excitement in the craziness stuff and the stimulation and
of foods of the wrong foods.
Fruit is just like constant, consistent, like supporter in your life that never affects you really in a negative way, and never you eat fruit, it doesn't change your state. That's something that I've realized. It's like, you say bananas, like when you eat bananas, it's like the subtlety of it, like you don't want to, it changes your state in the sense that you're not hungry anymore, you don't want to eat anymore, but even that's very subtle. You don't really feel it inside you. You don't feel any aftertaste as it's digesting. You don't notice it. It doesn't change your state from down or up or excited, or you're just sitting there like. And if you go through a period of just eating sweet fruit, like mono meals, and I've done like months on mangoes and stuff, it's profound, because like you never have any food to reach for to stimulate you or change your state or do something. So you're always looking for your life to be. You kind of end up turning towards life and saying, I need a more exciting life. That's what I'm actually missing out on. I need more people. I need more fun experiences. And then when you try and interact with people, they're saying, "Oh, let's go and do this fun thing tonight." And you're like, "Okay, great." And then it gets to it, and they're like, "Oh, let's just go to the restaurant." And you're like, I thought we were going to do this amazing fun thing, but they've all just went, "Oh, restaurant."
Right.
And I found that even being like beautiful tropical locations with other people that are into the fruit diet, but they're still eating some cooked food. And every night they're going to the restaurant. Every night they're going to the restaurant, the vegan restaurants and everything. And you're just sitting there going, it's weird. It's like when people have this connection with food, when they're using food like that, or abusing food like that, they are not. Their life is minimised in a way, in some way. It's just a real interesting lesson to get outside of that and realise we shouldn't be using food like that. It shouldn't be our it should be pleasurable, but it shouldn't be like
It's just
going
like
to
a
the-
crutch,
yeah.
you know, like an addiction, like any other
like a crutch. And
emotional addiction.
Your body's not meant to be a wonderland or like a pleasure-seeking invention of like how much pleasure can I have. Like it's never like a really good path. Hedonism, you know. So it's quite. I think it's quite clear that our entire psychology, the way our brain is for fruit. I mean, people say they have a bad memory, and then you take them to the city they live, and you say, "Where's the nearest restaurant? Where do you work? Where's the house you used to live in?" They know exactly where all these things are.
It brings them pleasure, right?
Yeah,
It brings them comfort.
But it's also because of the necessity of being able to memorize geographical locations
Oh, right.
as frugivores.
Yeah.
Our relationship with time, other animals seem to just live in it, even though we're tropical, and weather doesn't change, but we have a relationship with time to do with the fact that we're frugivores.
Right.
You know, we had to understand things come and go in the seasons, and this fruit will be back next year or 3 months, and we had to have an awareness of like, okay, we'll come back here and a bunch, you know. And I don't know, it might have been the case that just because we lived in these locations which we've lost, you know, that our original forests, whatever they were, we don't know where they are or what they were, but they would have been, it might have been the case that basically, it might have been a cycle of, okay, this is where we start the year, you know, like we wouldn't have been thinking this consciously, but we start here, and then we move on to this next location, and the fruit's right there, and then we move on to this next location. It could have been like...
We were somewhat nomadic.
Yeah, it's only recently that people haven't been nomadic.
Right.
People don't, like, even the tribal cultures, none of them have set location.
This is the first, like, time I've done, like, in my life that I've done a lot of road tripping where I just get up and go from one place to, like, very far away, you know, whenever I want. What I've noticed is, because I struggle with some, you know, anxiety and depression, is that when I have this freedom to just get up and move, even though like I'm not changing anything really but my location, I notice that does ease a lot of my anxiety sometimes, just moving.
I think you're right, and I think we have that is a part of our nature as well, the nomadic thing of having a sense of adventure. And like this is why there's a whole industry of travel, there's a whole industry of holidays. There's people that have travelled here from across the world. We can be tempted by that because we do have a desire and a dream that there's a better place out there. This is kind of programmed in us. There's a better place, and that's what vacations, the whole industry of that, plays upon those emotions that people have and trying to escape and get to a better place. And that is probably part of us. Whereas if we were, this is where all of our psychology is affected by the fact that we're a frugivore, that was nomadic, that was tropical, that had to live in groups. Like there's another thing we forget: we've had to live in a group. We can't survive individually in nature. None of us. There's some people that can sort of do it, but they're still supported by the modern world. Right? There's very few people that are totally disconnected, but we're really designed to live in groups, live with people. This is why people feel amazing this week as well, because like we're meant to be around people all the time. As much as a lot of people don't trust people and have issues like that, we are meant. It's healthy for us to be around each other and stimulate each other with conversation and ideas and challenges and activity, and that's some of the difficult challenges of life as well. Like, the social anxiety, the where am I in the group, am I popular, am I not popular, these are all natural part of the fact that we must live in a group to survive as a species. We cannot compete individually with other animals, we can't compete with other apes as an individual, but humans dominate the planet because we could work together, plan things out, use tools of course, and that's thinking of it like that's how we dominated, like that's why we always monopolized the fruit and were able to get the benefit of that because we were just always the ones that were able to create gardens. And the word paradise means a walled garden apparently in Arabic or something. Like paradise means a walled garden. So when we lived in paradise, it wasn't that we lived in the jungle. We lived in we kind of created our environments always to some degree. Partly just by the fact
that agriculture, not in the sense of like monocropping, like wheat or potatoes or something, but like in the sense of just understanding, how to plant things and grow what we want to grow. Do you think that's much older than like what the consensus says, which is like something like 10,000 years?
Well, no, I don't necessarily think that, but I think that we would have there was probably a fruit agriculture that goes back a little bit further that we don't really have an awareness of. We don't have the written history of it. But some of the earliest grown things would have been figs. But the thing about it is,
why is that? Why figs?
I don't know. That's just historical record that figs were one of the first cultivated things. It's one of the earliest things we have record of being cultivated. Were figs, and figs are essentially a huge part of chimpanzee diets and primate diets.
Right.
That is the calorie source.
Right.
Think about it. They're not eating bananas out in the wild all that much.
I found a fig tree when I was in one of the Carolinas, I think, maybe North Carolina.
Yeah.
And I remember I felt so primal, just like eating right from the tree, and I wanted to get up top to get like the really good ones that were ripe up there. And,
all these things open up in us.
Yeah.
That's in us to interact with trees, climb trees, eat wild fruits, eat figs and things. These things are all in us, and we're deprived of that. Growing up, I didn't have those experiences. I never ate a fig growing up, and never really climbed trees and stuff. But when you do it, you're like, something right about this. It feels right. When you try and climb a tree, you're utilising all of the movement of the body, right? You're kind of like, it's like a yoga,
right?
But you have to use all this balance. You start to realise how much we are kind of designed for trees as well.
Right.
Although we're not the best tree climbers, but we can do it enough to like climb basic fruit trees. So, I think that this is the great awakening for human beings. Because there's a lot of mystery as to human history. There's a lot of mystery. This is the answer of all of it. Like, how do we fit in with nature? We fit in because we're frugivores. Why are we like this? Why are we like that? Because we're frugivores, because we're a fruit-eating animal. And nothing else makes sense. It doesn't make sense that we're carnivores because most people actually are disgusted by the idea of killing and eating animals.
Yeah.
If an animal, even if this is the carnivore festival, if a pig walks in, our instinct is not to kill the pig.
Yeah.
And like children would like to see that, and they would actually want to like, if you were going to kill the pig, let's not let the children see that.
Right.
Carnivore parents, if they send their kids to school, if the kids came home from school and you said, what did you do at school today? Well, what happened is the teacher brought a pig in, he gave us all a knife, we stabbed it, we started chopping it apart. Like your parents would have freaked out, and yet you'd eaten bacon for dinner or pork or whatever. It's the exact same thing. And this is what a lot of veganism is about. Is about like trying to make people make that connection. But and in terms of being like herbivores, we just can't consume like vegetables in that kind of quantity in that way, and leaves, and we can't ferment them in the right way, and the size of our gut doesn't make sense. So frugivore is the only, and it doesn't mean we're 100% fruit. I'm not saying that.
Even
it means the major calorie source
the most
fruit.
calories, like the chimps and bonobos. I think they eat 60% of their diet from the fruit, and the rest is leaves and other things.
Yeah, and it depends. And chimpanzees are different to us. Bonobos are more like us digestive-wise. They are higher fruit. There are apes that are
But I guess
more
the
leaves,
point
more
is
fruit.
that like there still should be like a large amount of green leaves in the diet, most likely, right? Like not like, or when people say herbivore, I think they're talking about like eating grasses and things like that. You know, like
well, even herbivore, you could even say like grains and things and root vegetables. But I would say that my belief, although I can't prove it, but my belief is that people could live healthfully on fruit alone and sweet fruit alone with no other savoury fruits, or whatever you want to call it. That's my personal belief and opinion that I'm not going to prove to you.
right.
But,
What about these people that claim they were deficient in minerals or something? Like, I mean, that's sort of anecdotal, I guess.
yeah, mineral
it's
deficiency is not a common thing. As far as I'm concerned, the only reason that we have this word deficiency, or the idea of deficiency when it comes to diet, is situations of vitamin deficiency, generally where and ironically where people didn't eat fruit, or they didn't have access to fruit and vegetables or any fresh food. So it was the sailors that went away and got scurvy. It was kind of isolated groups in parts of the world that were eating specific, usually, ironically, starch-based diets. You know, and some people want to talk about the starch-based diet and human beings are starchivores, but it's led to deficiency in a number of different situations. Usually grains. It's usually certain types of grains, and people try to live on those. And so deficiency diseases arose, and famously the solution with scurvy was with the British Navy was limes and lime juice, and that's why they were called limeys and all that. So deficiency comes from situations where people weren't eating fruit. Like, this is the ironic thing. So then people in this movement are like, well, if you just eat fruit, you're going to die of mineral deficiencies, and there's absolutely no evidence of that ever happening. And when people say,
it's really
I
more
met
of
someone that ate just fruit and they were really spacey, and you're like, that
more of
doesn't
a lack
mean
of
anything.
calories than anything else.
It's definitely, historically, everyone who tried a raw diet would have been under-eating on calories.
Oh, running a blender over here.
Yeah, we can't get away from the noise. But yeah, but what I'm telling you is, this is my opinion that I've yet to prove, but I believe I will be able to look into the science and prove it, because
you'll be able to prove.
Yeah, because the more I look into what the numbers are for what we are suggested is the level of minerals we need and the level of protein we need, the more I question that, because they don't have good information on this. They don't have good information on those things.
What I've learned from Chris Kendall, who I guess got it through taking the Rick and Karen Dina course, is like that we recycle a lot of minerals, we recycle protein, we recycle. I mean, I don't know. I haven't taken the course, but it sounds interesting. Supposedly it's all science-based.
Well, if you look at what is the number for how much iodine you need, how much selenium you need, how much of all these things, then there's these numbers that you can't hit with just fruit. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
The question is, where do the numbers come from? And when you go into the numbers, let's say for essential fatty acids is a good one, this is a different one. How did they figure out what's the number we should hit for essential fatty acids? They looked at the average across the population. That's literally what it is. It's the average across the population, because people aren't deficient in it, so that's the safe number. We don't have enough information to know what the lowest amount is,
right,
or the appropriate amount. Just the average in a population, so that's the safe number.
Right.
Now, when it comes to some of the minerals, it's a similar thing. We don't know. Certain people go on about iodine. We can't even measure it properly. We don't know how much people are meant to have, etc. Like,
same
it goes
with,
on and on again.
Right?
You try. Some of these in chromium's one of them. You try and measure it, you contaminate it. You can't measure it properly. We don't know how to get a good measurement of food. This is not a very advanced science. These numbers they're coming out with are extremely safe numbers based on the average across the population, because as an average, we do not see zinc deficiency, chromium deficiency. These are very rare things.
Why do they say? So there's this propaganda about vegans don't get enough zinc or iodine or whatever it is, you're saying that's based on some flawed science or idea that they're just saying it's based on what people normally get through the standard American diet.
Not all of it. But it's like when I was reading up on selenium, so you can read up on all that stuff. The level of selenium that is suggested is a level that maximizes a particular activity of a particular antioxidant. That doesn't, I don't know what that even necessarily means. Does that mean you get deficient or if you don't have that number? No. It means it doesn't maximize this particular antioxidant. We're eating a diet that is so full of antioxidants. Is it an issue?
Right.
I don't know.
And to maximize something isn't necessarily it doesn't necessarily mean that that's like good or as evolved to have or something you can maximize a lot of your athletic skills by using steroids, performance enhancing drugs, and
But the truth is, why do people say we need vegetables? We must have vegetables. It's because if I was to say to you, do you want to have bananas for dinner, or do you want to have like this big complex vegetable salad thing with dressings and all that? Everyone wants to have the dressing and the salad and the flavors of that are more stimulating. Like, people don't want to give that up. That's the truth. Bananas for dinner is like, oh, that's boring. It's not really not that boring. It's the best. It makes you feel the best. You're way more satisfied. But
my last meal, the last meal I had last night was, I think like six bananas or something.
Yeah, but I'm not 100% fruitarian. But I don't like the argument of if you don't eat enough vegetables, you're going to get deficient. I think it would be very hard to get deficient on just fruit. And I agree with you that most of the times when people say, oh, I met this guy who was just eating fruit and he was like really unhealthy, that he wasn't. It's like they're not eating enough. They're probably having like loads of fat. A lot of these people are trying to detox and fast all the time.
Right, they're doing the water fasting, the dry fasting.
They're not doing it in a grounded way. They actually are not proper fruitarian in the sense that they think, I can't eat too much fruit. That's not the mentality of a fruitarian, which is abundance of fruit. And eating until satisfied.
I crave green leaves sometimes.
It's good.
Green leaves,
And I crave
not that
savory
means,
flavors as well.
Not that means that I need them or that they're good for me. It just it's like
But
sometimes I want to eat the fruit. Sometimes I want to eat the greens. Sometimes I want to eat both together.
I crave the savory flavors. So I experiment at times where I just eat fruit, and I do still have like mild craving. Like I'd like to eat something else. But is it truly? Because I always like craving really means you're hungry a lot of the time. Like you need to eat more. And so when people say I crave chocolate, I crave coffee, it's like some of that's addiction and some of it's like
right. How do you? And it's hard to separate. What's what. Yeah.
But I don't think the body is so sophisticated that it can tell you, like it can pop a picture in your head of Brazil nuts because you need more selenium.
Right.
I don't believe that. I heard someone say today, and unfortunately, like you still hear some information that I think is pretty bad. Wait for this to turn off.
Wait for the blender.
Yeah. The allergy kitchen. So someone was saying today in a talk, and they were saying, it's not good to get too alkaline, and maybe the reason sometimes people are drawn to eat junk food. Maybe the reason sometimes people are drawn to eat junk food is because they actually need to rebalance themselves because they've been too alkaline and they need to get back to the centre. And I'm like, that's not the reason that people crave junk food at all, but people share these ideas. I don't think the body's that sophisticated. It's simply.
I heard that. I heard that from like a David Wolf thing.
Right.
He said when people smoke weed, they want junk food because the weed makes them alkaline, and he's trying to get back that. I don't.
It's not they're just, like people are just hungry, and the idea that there's a much better way of, and I don't even know how you would get too alkaline. I don't know. I think he was talking about people that drink alkaline water all the time. But even then, like the answer to that is to piss and like wait. You know, like your body will rebalance itself naturally.
Right.
And at the end of the day, you can't get too alkaline. Your body, every chemical reaction in your body is catalyzed by enzymes, and enzymes are biological catalysts that require a particular pH and a particular heat. And if you go outside of the dimensions of that, chemical reactions will start to be effective in stopping your body, and you'll fall apart and die very quickly. So everything is strictly kept within particular limits for that reason. And
well,
it's very hard to get too alkaline. Like
these are all interesting things which you talk a lot more about in your podcast that you do. Love fruit.
Yeah, well, I rarely talk about it. I usually ask questions, and other people give the answers.
Well, what about Fruity Fridays?
Fruity Fridays. Yeah, I mean, I do. I mean, my YouTube channel stuff. I do try and give information and stuff.
Yeah.
But when I'm interviewing people, usually I allow them to speak.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to start to transition to maybe asking more specific, detailed information, and then questioning people a bit more thoroughly. I mean, I don't think we've figured this thing all out entirely, so I've got my own ideas. And
well, I think it's
one of my pet peeves is the idea that,
yeah.
like, I've got nothing against people eating leaves and enjoying vegetables and all that, but to say because you'll get a mineral deficiency if you eat only fruit, I'm like, okay, so people can live an entire lifetime on junk food, literally a lifetime. And yeah, they get these diseases, they get problems, but they can live a lifetime never having a deficiency in their life. But if you eat the healthiest food for us, you're getting a deficiency. Like, that doesn't sit right for me.
Right.
And then the argument is, well, it's because it's modern fruit, and it's because of the soil. It's like, my feeling is, once again, can't prove it entirely, but what we have access to now is better than ever. And I want people to focus on right now is the best time ever to be healthy and eat healthy. Wherever you're living, if you're in the US, Europe, any of the developed countries, China, like everywhere, this is the best time. You're in the best place to do this and eat healthy.
Speaking of eating healthy, I think dinner has started.
Yeah, we've missed. We could have been first in the queue, but
oh man.
But we'll get something.
All right. Well,
Woodstock
thanks, Ronnie.
Festival,
We're at
make
the
sure you
Woodstock.
come.
Yeah.
It's not an option. You don't have an option to not come. You have to come. If you watch this video, you have to come. So go and sign up right now, and no excuse. Basically.
No excuses. It's a great time. You get to eat an abundance of all kinds of raw food, particularly fruit.
An actual abundance.
Yeah, as much as you want, really, all day long.
But
So
an amazing salad buffet as well for all the people that don't want to get deficient and everything. Like as much greens as you want.
I'm gonna go work on my potential deficiencies
Yeah,
right
we're
now.
gonna make sure we don't die of.
Cheers,
Dude,
brother.
you guys
Thank
are
you.
still going on with this thing? No one's gonna. This is so long.
It's
No one's gonna
long,
listen to
but
this.
you know,
People love me.
Yeah,
Shut up. People want to.
they want to. I know people that would listen to him talk all day.
43 minutes and 40 seconds. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Get out of
Me,
here.
it's not enough.
Cheers.